Major funding for these programs is made possible by grants from Chase Commercial Term Lending, New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, M&T Bank, Customers Bank, Genova Burns, Terra CRG, Meridian Capital Group. Additional support is made possible by AKA Hotels Corman Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, CPEX Real Estate Services, Cushman & Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Eastern Union Funding, Fisher Brothers, First Nationwide Title Agency, Flushing Bank, Friedman, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investments, Hersha Hospitality, Hodges Ward Elliott, Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Sterling National Bank, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, The Continuum Company, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
Affordable housing. Is there affordable housing? Well, there's a dire need for affordable housing in New York and the nation, but where is it coming from? How do you get it? Who provides financing? Why do people build? And how do you be lucky enough to win the lottery for it? So today I've assembled this group of experts who are going to provide their thoughts on the status of affordable housing in the region. My guests include my good friend Jeff Levine, who is the chairman and CEO of Douglaston Development and Levine Builders, Jane Silverman, who is the executive director for community development at Chase, a developer on the other side, Andrea Kretschmer, who is a principal at the Kretschmer Companies and a principal at POCO, Laura Bailey, who came from Virginia to be here with us today, who is the managing vice president of community development, we call it?
Community finance.
Community finance for Capital One Bank. And last but not least, James Rizzo, who is a principal at the Briarwood organization. So I have developer, builder, developer, banker. Is there affordable housing? How can we build affordable housing? We have this dire need. What's going on today?
Well, affordable housing, as we all know, is critical to the fabric of the life of New York City. We need to have people of very diverse incomes in order to make this city the mosaic that has become and attract others to come here from all over the world. Obviously, affordable housing is difficult because 50% of people are paying more than 30% of their revenue for housing in New York City, as is evidenced by the fact that we have vacancy below 5% and 3%. So the issue of affordable housing is critical, as our mayor, this mayor, and every mayor before him, going back to my early days in the affordable housing business under Mayor Koch, when we worked with the Housing Partnership, when we worked with HPD, HDC, and all of his people. Mayor de Blasio has renewed this commitment, wanting to do over 200,000 units of housing over these next 10 years.
Now, Mayor Bloomberg did a great job in creating a lot of affordable housing. It was the time that we had land that we were talking about. Today, we don't have that much land. And then we were talking prior to the show that James was saying, and Andrea, the amount of time it took, the recession really took out a lot of guts on affordable housing. You know, you were talking about Melrose. I mean,
Right.
How long does it take to do an affordable housing project today?
I mean, typically it should take about a year and a half from the time you're awarded to the time you break ground. We have some projects where we were awarded the job back in 2009. And due to ULURP and other, bureaucracy and getting
Financing.
political, community.
It took 5 years.
It took 5 years to break ground.
People want to know, how does somebody get an affordable apartment? Could someone try to explain the lottery system, the area median, AMI? Jane or Andrew, who wants to?
I think you probably have done the marketing.
Sure. So we, well, you talked about area median income. So for the city of New York, it's a very large area and includes some of the wealthier counties out on Long Island and Westchester. And so the area median income for a family of four in New York is around $80,000. Maybe it's a little higher than that now. So the typical affordable housing project that you would see is built for people who live at 60% of the area median. So that's a family of four earning $48,000 a year. Is that right? Yeah, $48,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, it's scaled depending on the size of your family. And
prior to you arriving this morning, I was telling both Jane and Laura about two incidents of people who watch my shows who won the lottery, as one would say. And Jane was saying, the lottery, sometimes we can have 50, 60,000 people.
Indeed.
So one person qualified under this 70 or 60% of the AMI, which was a low income. But the other families who also have a difficulty qualified under the 175. So what is the 175 up to on the bands?
Well, if you considered it roughly 80,000 is median, 175.
But my question is not that. My question is, I earn a little bit more, but it's still impossible for me to get an apartment.
Right.
And I see these notices in the newspaper, or I go to New York City Housing Connect, or even if I'm in the Westchester market where POCO does a lot of work, there's different markets. How does somebody get the opportunity to go into the lottery? Okay, that's what I want to educate.
The lotteries, as per the policies of the agencies, are advertised in different media and print. They're also available online at the agencies.
Right, and NYC Connect.
There are many not-for-profits, be they New Destiny or FIPS or Settlement Housing, who will actively help people find these affordable projects. So the higher income bands are available only in mixed income projects where they have units allocated for the internal core subsidy.
Also the community board, which the project is in, they get preference.
They get 50% of the...
And then it goes to city workers, cops, teachers, firemen. So they get the preference, and then the demographic slowly goes out from there.
Can we talk about, people think affordable housing, but another big aspect of affordable housing is supportive housing.
Yes.
And who would like to try to explain that?
Well, Michael, I think that's a big trend in affordable housing. Last year, our three major supportive housing developments in New York involved three different types of subsidy that helped make not just the rents affordable, but help make sure that there are services for people who are living in the community that need just a little bit of a boost to be viable in society.
You were talking earlier about the three bands on a program that you're involved with.
Yeah, I was talking about a couple things. One is there are three different tiers of incomes in a particular project that we financed recently. One is a traditional low income, another one was supportive low income, and a moderate income band. So that's one of the first that I've seen with all three in one project.
As I was saying earlier, prior to the show, one of the biggest difficulties of affordable housing is there's not much land to be built, okay? Some of it's being built, maybe perhaps on a former brownfield or in a different neighborhood, okay? And, you need the opportunity because we need more people to be living in the New York market. Where can we do this? We were talking a bit earlier before about NYCHA, the New York City Housing Authority, which has some extra land because when these houses were built, and you lived in a NYCHA housing yourself, there were parks, there were parking lots and all the rest. That's a market or an opportunity.
I know that there's a debate about parking in some of these areas now. We're doing a project currently with a nonprofit who had a parking lot. They owned a parking lot next to one of their affordable buildings that was totally underutilized. So we are now developing, we partnered with that nonprofit, and we are developing a building on that parking lot.
We hear about affordable housing. One thing that I know Jeff has been involved with, and I believe maybe both banks have been involved with it, has been senior housing, affordable senior housing. Explain that to me.
Well, affordable senior housing in many cases is very desirable in many communities because senior housing doesn't drain the community in terms of school costs and things of those nature. So when you're talking low income, unfortunately there are some communities that are not amenable to having low income developments in their community. Seniors are being welcomed to a higher degree because seniors are seen as a group that is not involved with drugs, does not need community services beyond those having to do with their physical and health disabilities. So I believe that when you have a subsidy program for seniors, you also have to remember very often they are not asset tested in many of these programs, so it's basically revenue based. And for many of these seniors who may have sold a home, if all they have as revenue is their Social Security and some earnings from their pension, very often they can satisfy the economic requirements for affordable housing.
You know what Jim was saying before about the communities, you know, that the preference is for 50% of the people who lived in the community board. I remember when Silverstein built on 42nd Street and he built something, he had difficulties finding people to qualify for the senior housing because the band of opportunities
Can be so narrow.
Can be so narrow.
You want to make sure there's such a huge need for affordable housing that you're not saying you need to be senior, you need to be this specific type of a group in order to fit it. And, you know, I would agree with Jeff that what's unusual about New York is there's less senior-focused housing being built in New York, and it's more of an open
Now,
population.
aren't you building in Staten Island senior housing
We
right
have
now?
built in Staten Island, both assisted living, and now we hope in June, subject to our wonderful governor and our mayor putting together the bond allocations, as well as possibly dealing with some of the other issues we're confronting. We'll be closing on a 160-unit seniors project, which we believe is in the Seaview area and will be a very
And for my audience, what earnings does the senior individual or the couple have to have?
The band is roughly 60 to 80% in order to satisfy both the federal requirements for tax credit allocation as well as the community desires. So we're talking about at 60% of the median of roughly
Of that
80,000. Again,
83,000
is
that you
50,000.
So here's a
Yeah.
question. Why does Chase, why does Capital One go into this business? Well, what is the reason why major lenders like you, the biggest bank, okay, and a nice sized bank, okay, a very nice bank and good friends on both sides, go into this business? Why is there a impetuous desire to help for affordable housing?
Well, it's great for communities, but it's great business. It's a very simple answer.
It's our obligation to make sure that we have a clear public benefit to existing, and this is a perfect way. You see a need that's out there and the opportunity to use your expertise to do something that's good.
But I
mean,
think
come
also-
on, you can't get any better
I'm
than
not in
that.
financing, but I think the formula works.
Well, I think
I
also,
think the
I
risk-
think the
I think
fact
the
that you
risk
have
is low.
CRA requirements is also a big part
Well,
of it.
CRA requirements. But I think the risk is relatively low as opposed to market risk.
That's
And-
right.
and I
Both
think-
of those
I
things are right.
Yes.
I think that's really important because the risk, once you put an affordable housing, the people who are living in it they want that opportunity. They want to be there,
Absolutely. It's
and they're going to be
appreciated.
paying their rent. You're not going to have to worry about the arrears of somebody
more
in
than
90
that.
days or
Right.
120
More than
days.
that, the structure of affordable housing, which is often subsidized either through grant or subsidy mortgage, basically that mortgage or that grant takes a second position to the money of the lending institution and enables the deals to make
Yeah.
far more economic
Yeah.
sense.
And it's interesting, isn't it, how if you're doing the right thing, it works out, right? Because your interests are aligned. The residents want to live there. The developer wants it to be affordable to stay in compliance with the programs. And so that has to work for the bank.
Andrea, when you took care of the Coney Island Commons, one of the, in addition to building the affordable housing, one of the components was the YMCA.
Right.
So let's
And
talk
that
about
was
that.
the RFP that the city issued soliciting development ideas for that parcel required a community facility operator. And so we were fortunate enough to enter into a relationship with the Y. And that was, I certainly believe, part of one of the reasons that we won. And the financing there was, we took a number of different approaches. Originally, we were looking at new market tax credits for the financing. It became more expensive and more complicated than necessary, and so we ended up using just the low-income housing tax credits, but that is a winner for the community.
So the
certainly.
community now acquires a Y. And what about the tenants in the property? Do they get any certain advantages?
This was an important part. That's a very good question, because that was an important part of the way the project was designed, was that we had to ensure that the community as a whole felt welcome in the Y, and that it was clear that it was not just for the residents of the 2 apartment buildings. And the membership, the Y looks at this, of course, also they're in the community business. And so for the Y, this is a loss leader. We understand that. And their pricing is based on a sliding scale according to your income. So membership, and that building is full at all times of the day and in the evening. And you see old people, young people, people of all different races and ethnic backgrounds in that building, because it's Coney Island and that's who lives there. And the Y memberships are strong. It's been a tremendous asset. There's a family pool and a lap pool, and it was
now.
Well, it's very interesting because the benefit to the community of affordable housing typically goes beyond that, because in many of these economically challenged areas, the new construction of good community facility and or retail space doesn't happen on its own.
Right.
So if you go back years,
Right.
we worked with the Anchor program with both HPD and the Housing Partnership again. We built the Renaissance, where we bought over 60,000 square feet of community retail, which include the Carver Bank, which included Health and Beauty Aid,
Right.
all of which enhanced the quality of living in the
Look,
neighborhood.
this was when you built that the Renaissance. This was before the resurgence of Harlem, okay? And you had a great location, but the retail was truly limited to 125th Street, and it was a different type of retail. So you went in there, and you at that time you even get a better benefit. You gave the community the opportunity to buy an affordable condominium, and the people today have been very lucky and have sold them for a very large.
And the community services in some of these buildings can be very varied. Our investments in Harlem have included Sugar Hill, that has a children's Head Start center in the ground floor, and we have one where the partners art space, where the ground floor is performance space and gallery space for artists. So
Right now, I have the privilege of working with Jane and Chase on a project on 149th Street, 500 units of mixed income affordable housing, the base of which will provide not only important retail community, but we were fortunate enough to bring a universal pre-kindergarten into
Now, this
one
is
of the buildings.
149th in the Bronx.
149th Street in the Bronx. And you have to realize, having 20,000 square feet of continuous high ceiling space
Yes.
does not exist in the existing building stock of those areas.
Right.
And one of the things that the HPD RFPs, that they've created this incredibly competitive market for creativity in partnering. So we're bringing in nonprofits, community groups, arts programs, music, supportive services into these proposals and getting groups that wouldn't otherwise be participating in affordable housing. It's benefiting the neighborhood. It's forcing us to be much more proactive in thinking.
Yep.
And it's an overall benefit also to the deals.
What about for my audience? What is supportive programs? What's help? The Andrew Cuomo program that went into effect a number of years ago. What are the different programs in addition to housing that people who are residents of these communities on these affordable housing have? Okay, are there social services? Are there psychologists? Are there social workers?
I mean, we're doing 5 projects currently, and we're partnered with 5 different nonprofits, and they each have their own unique.
Okay, so give me examples.
Well, we're partnering with Phipps Housing up in the Bronx, and they're going, and also we're partners with the Bridge up in the Bronx, and they're going to be.
What is the Bridge?
They provide services for low income individuals, but the specific building is veterans housing.
Which
So
is
that's
another important.
right.
need.
So
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
a whole niche.
Now, are there some supportive housing programs where there's job training also?
Yep. there
Sure.
are.
In fact, we're in construction now also on NYCHA land in East New York. That was an underutilized parking lot between the Linden houses and Boulevard houses. So that's on Stanley Avenue. And we're doing a community facility there as well. It's about 19,000 square feet, and Good Shepherd Services and Man Up are going to operate that facility. And Man Up is a local East Brooklyn nonprofit that does workforce development, job training, OSHA training for the 40-hour certification, job placement. So, for example, we're constructing on the site. We have members of the community working on the job who Man Up helped us place. These guys are doing it all the time, too. You have a local hiring requirement. So economic development, job creation, that's a big part
Well,
of.
we have worked both in Brooklyn. We talked about the Linden houses, where I actually lived for a portion of my childhood, where I have worked with a number of community-based employment groups, and we work in different communities with different community-based groups.
Exactly.
For instance, Positive Workforce, very active in Central Harlem, different groups in different areas, which really reflect the nature of the population of the community, which is critical.
Now, something that people are not aware of. Once you're in an affordable housing program, also in an 80-20 program, because there's 20% of market in the market rate housing. There's a 20% which is basically an affordable housing. It's not a separate building.
20%, soon to be 25 or 30.
Right, but people, when they hear the 80-20, those are the best lotteries, and people want to get into these buildings, and they, ironically, I believe that the writer, producer, director, everything of Hamilton won the lottery a number of years ago, and he
Really?
lived on West End Avenue in a.
I didn't know
Yes,
that.
he lived.
Yeah.
He won the lottery, all fair and square. Now he's fortunately doing very well, but his rent is maintained. Right, once you get into these apartments.
Yeah.
Once you're in the apartment, you cannot be forced to leave, although if you file your income and it exceeds the permissible allocations, other apartments have to be lowered in respect to that to try to maintain the balance. But it is a real problem.
Now,
in general, the
what's-
80-20 program, where you're building high-rise buildings at typically much higher cost than low or mid-density type construction, is an issue which has to be addressed.
See, but in Long Island, the Long Island housing program, there they specifically say that you have to bring your tax returns. You have to qualify each and every year.
Right.
And that's
I mean,
more common.
Okay,
Right.
and that's more common.
Yes.
What about, I know POCO is doing programs in Westchester, and Laura, you're doing programs, both of you, in other markets. What's the affordable housing programs, let's say, in New Jersey, the Newark area or the Elizabeth area? And then I know that there was recently, I think, Atlantic Development, Peter Fine did something in Mount Vernon. So is there differences?
I think you're still talking about the federal tax credit rules
Yeah.
and next available unit that Jeff was talking about.
Yeah.
If one becomes ineligible, the next one has to be reduced to keep the number of affordable units the same.
But you mentioned Newark. I mean, Newark has become a center for redeveloping buildings, and so the affordable housing programs are looked at in many places. Newark is a great example as being a way to redevelop buildings.
I mean, let's be realistic. When Jeff, since he's the elder statesman, okay, started, in Harlem with the burnout program, with the
Vacant building
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
building
Actually in the
program.
Bronx,
That history here.
along with
No, the vacant
Yeah.
building. I mean,
Yeah.
these were neighborhoods, they were vacant land. I mean, I still remember when we started the show 15 years
Well,
ago.
it was the MREN housing stock that
Right.
led Mayor Koch to say, well, let's bring these back into service. And frankly speaking, it was then the Housing Partnership and Kathy Wild that helped formulate the concept of marrying the private sector with the public sector and the
Yes.
private banks
Back
to
then,
have
there
the
was
type
a lot
of guarantees.
more lots and a lot less developers.
Right, there was-
Right.
look,
It was a
Right.
lot. It was
Look,
a lot
when
easier.
you built on Madison Avenue, on those the 2 or 3 story family,
Yeah.
those are beautiful houses, okay? And there was a dire need because Madison Avenue from 106th to 125th Street was vacant lots. I mean, and the community has changed over there.
I mean, in retrospect, though, it was low density. those lots probably could have been used for a lot
Much
better.
higher as opposed
higher
to a 3
uses.
story.
One of the things that we're seeing outside the city now, we do a lot of work in Connecticut actually, and we have a project in Suffolk County, is what they're calling TOD, so transit-oriented development. So, right, nobody else is ever going to be New York, but these are smaller cities, especially in Connecticut, that are developing new downtowns around their busways and railroad stations, and encouraging young families or empty nesters in particular to come and live in these areas. And we're doing mixed income projects there.
I mean, one of the
Yeah,
large developments
exactly.
in Long Island today is the Ronkonkoma. Ronkonkoma, where they're working on the train station to get to get closer,
And
which is
Wyandanch.
the
Wyandanch is big
But
investment for us.
Long
It
Island
was a
City,
labor of love. but
downtown
yeah.
Brooklyn, Williamsburg, they're actually
Yeah.
transit-oriented developments with the subway. And
Yeah.
that's why those
Yeah.
communities have
Yep.
evolved, because
No,
of
no,
the commutation to transit.
And that's
But
one
Jersey
challenge
coupled
of
with the
Coney
rezoning.
Island. Yeah,
right.
the challenge
That
of
is
Coney Island.
when I do shows and people I ask about Coney Island, the general comment is, it's a great place to develop, but once you get off the subway,
Right. So
there's
back in the day,
nothing
we
there.
would call that a two-fare zone.
If you get off the subway.
Right. So you get off the subway at Stillman, and then
It's
you're
an hour.
still right. Especially if you're of age at all, and you need to get all the way to West 29th or West 30th Street in Coney
But
Island. you're
one of
taking
the
a bus.
areas that the Briarwood organization was involved with was the Rockaways, okay, which is also, as we
Right.
would say, a two-fare zone, or
Right.
that you had to go over there, and and look, the Rockaways. Beautiful water, the same water that you have.
Oh, yeah.
where you are, okay. It's the same thing, but
Those were for sale. It was a tough sell, but then Auburn by the Sea came in, and the neighborhood is slowly
right. But it's really a beautiful thing, and that community, it created low density,
Right.
over there, and it's really been an important thing. So, with like 1 minute left, what do we see, in the balance of 2016? The biggest challenge for affordable housing.
Well, obviously, the world has changed greatly since 2015. The expiration of the 421A tax abatement is something which absolutely needs to be dealt with, as does the bond allocations, the taxes and bond allocations between the city and state. I'm quite sure, since the idea of affordable housing is so critical, that our governments, both our state and city governments, will work this out. And I think that has to be done in 2016.
And the
Agreed.
prevailing wage discussion is still in flux. That's going to affect the amount of affordable housing units that we can develop.
Laura?
We need to pick up the pace. There is a dire need for affordable housing across the spectrum. New York has figured out how to do this well in many respects, but we need to do more.
Andrew?
Kudos to HPD Commissioner Bean, because she'll say to us, she says to James, and she says to Jeff probably all the time too, bring me your deals. Let's be creative. We can have a conversation. The door is always open.
Last but not least.
Last but not least, I think there's a lot of subsidy out there, more than ever before. With the new budgets coming out, tax credit pricing is higher than ever, and it's a world of opportunity out there.
So, I don't have my crystal apple, which I normally have. So it does look shiny, that the world looks good, and hopefully there'll be the movement on the 421As and certain other things, but with the budget and everything, there'll be more affordable housing, because we need affordable housing in the metro area. I'd like to thank Jeff, Jane Silverman, Andrea, Laura, and James, and I'll see you next week.